wanted to make a difference during the pandemic. They started Create and Educate LLC to help educators and parents during some tough times. They're focusing on literacy and leadership. CN2's R.E.A.L.L. Jackson has more on how they're helping the community.
Create and Educate, we are a consulting firm that works with educators as well as entrepreneurs. So with the side where we're working with educators, we offer professional development.
You're watching CN2 News. 2 Chester County principals wanted to make a difference during the pandemic. They started Create and Educate LLC to help educators and parents during some tough times. They're focusing on literacy and leadership. CN2's R.E.A.L.L. Jackson has more on how they're helping the community.
Create and Educate, we are a consulting firm that works with educators as well as entrepreneurs. So with the side where we're working with educators, we offer professional development on literacy as well as implicit bias. We work with leaders and leadership teams to help improve schools.
They've been surviving pandemic education by offering tips for school leaders, teachers, and parents.
We really want to see kids through the trajectory, graduating from high school, ready to go to college or to start a career or to go into the military.
Create and Educate has multiple community partners in the area that read books to children weekly, discuss literature, and express their support for the education system. Recently, the owners were featured for Amazon's #1 best-selling book entitled Women Who Lead in Education.
And so we are super, super excited because we're amongst a family of women leaders who are absolutely extraordinary. So it's an honor to have been asked to participate. And then even more of an honor now that the book has gone on sale and it became a #1 bestseller. So you don't have to be a school leader to have leadership qualities.
Collectively, both Tammy Taylor, principal of Great Falls Elementary, and Dr. Sheikah Houston, principal of Chester Middle School, have 40 years of service in education. They have learned the need in their community, and they plan to
serve all children in all communities. And one of the things that we enlighten people about in our professional development with literacy is that sometimes it's hard for children to connect to text because they don't see themselves in text. Providing that culturally relevant literature for students, and that's not just African American students, that's all students. Every student at every school should be able to see themselves in a book, in a text, to be able to connect with it.
Surviving pandemic education together in Chester, R.E.A.L.L. Jackson, CN2 News.
Again, their goal is to help connect educators, parents, community members, and authors each week to help better navigate the pandemic. To learn more about Create and Educate LLC, simply follow them on Facebook or at their website at createandeducate.com.
Create and Educate held their first personal event after a year of completely virtual events. The organization started during the pandemic, and their goal was to create a way to educate students, teachers, and families virtually. During their Lunch and Learn event, teachers, university experts, leaders, and educators speaking about ways to prepare students since the pandemic.
It has been very difficult. Some teachers have decided to leave the profession as well as leaders. So we know that education is something that all of our children need. We want to be able to build resilience in our leaders and our teachers so that our education system will be resilient as well.
We needed to provide the space for some dialogue on how we move forward from here and how we can shift where we are in education so that as we move forward, we're moving forward and we are not just trying to do school as usual, but truly looking for some new and innovative ideas for what's going to take us to that next level.
Create and Educate also celebrating its 1-year anniversary.
Join Sheikah and Tammy on the collaborative. Let's go! The collaborative. 1, 2, 1, 2. The collaborative. What's that time?
On Facebook Tuesday at 7.
The Collaborative. Who we have? Come on.
We have our leaders, we have our teachers and our parents, we have our authors. Story time at the end, solving problems in our education system. Phenomenal women.
Join them on Facebook.
On Facebook Tuesday at 7. The Collaborative.
It's that time. You're Will Sheikah and Tammy.
The Collaborative.
Phenomenal ladies. It's educational. Here on the Facebook. The Collaborative.
The Collaborative.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Collaborative. Good evening, Tammy. How are you?
Hey, Sheikah. Hey, everyone. Welcome. Happy Tuesday.
Yes, and we have officially started back to school. So I know that some of you tuning in may have started back like us with your professional development day, and our students return tomorrow. So getting back into the groove of things and getting ready for the kids to come back tomorrow. Some people may start back later in the week. How was y'all?
We are super excited about being back. It's that time when you reboot and get ready for that second part of the year. So it was a good day, and the staff, I think, appreciated having that time to really dig into data. I heard some really good conversations and actually met with a number of the teams today to be able to talk about what comes next and get some plans laid out for the second semester.
Awesome.
So,
and thank you for joining us. Principal Sherrod Laws, that theme song was actually created by one of my former students and a former SRO who's a musician. So we're proud of it because it's Chester made, our hometown.
It is.
How are you, Dr. Felton? Thank you for joining us. And Tammy's going to go ahead and do the intro.
Yes.
I'll finish the comments.
Absolutely. Happy Tuesday again, everybody. It's a great evening for you to join because we do have someone special with us, and we're super excited about a special guest this evening. Once again, we want to say thank you to everyone who joins us, all of the educators, leaders, teachers, all our parents, community members, and authors. So thanks everyone for being a part of what we are attempting to do here with the Collaborative. We want you to like and share our feed. We don't want to be kept to ourselves. That's what Sheikah says, because it's very, very important. Algorithms are those things that she really studies. So make sure you share us. And please, as you come in to comment tonight, let us know where you're coming from. We are your problem-solving educators, but we cannot solve problems alone. We come together once a month to bring awareness and bring our collaborators together to actually form some true alliances around real topics and to hear each other's voices. We believe that we truly are better together, and so we like to demonstrate that. And we are so excited because we get now to incorporate our work into the discussions that we have with the amazing guests that we have. And like I said, we have a truly amazing guest with us this evening.
We do, and I'm going to bring him right on up. Good evening, Dr. VaShawn D. Smith. How are you?
I'm good. Good evening, ladies. Super excited to finally be on the Collaborative. I've been following the show for a minute, so I feel like I done got the Make-A-Wish Foundation gift today.
Well, we appreciate you as much as you appreciate us. So Thank you for reaching out and joining us. Dr. VaShawn Smith is joining us all the way from Missouri, and he's going to be telling us how he is keeping it real at his middle school. But before he starts, I'm going to give him the proper introduction by reading his bio. Dr. VaShawn Smith is a proud graduate of Calvin M. Woodward High School, class of 1998. Dr. Smith is currently the principal of Grandview Middle School in Grandview, Missouri, where the school's priorities are relationships, intentional planning, and delivery of instruction in advancing literacy and numeracy. Dr. Smith earned his Doctorate of Educational Leadership from St. Louis University in May 2019. Before being named Grandview Middle School principal, Dr. Smith served as an assistant principal, instructional coach, and math teacher in Kansas, Ohio, and Nebraska. Dr. Smith has a bachelor's degree in secondary math education, 2 masters from the University of Nebraska, and an educational specialist degree from St. Louis University. Dr. Smith is an up-and-coming transformational leader, author, and presenter. His work as a school leader is grounded in relationship building with a focus on instructional leadership, empowering students' voices, intentionally using the Marzano instructional strategies, and creating a school culture where schools enroll families, not just students. I love that. Under Dr. Smith's leadership, Grandview Middle School was the March Spotlight School in the Missouri PTA Newsletter for its work in community and student engagement despite the pandemic. In addition, Dr. Smith is the co-host of the Engage podcast, a co-author of Voices Volume 1 by BMESTL, and co-founder of Black Male Educators of Greater Kansas City, and is the 22-23 Greater Kansas City Middle School Principal of the Year. That is phenomenal. Welcome, Dr. Smith.
Yes, welcome. We are so happy to have you on with us, and huge congratulations. That is a tremendous honor. So we salute you.
Thank you. I appreciate it. So before we go forward, though, I got to shout out my boy, Sharon Laws in the comments, my frat brother. Blue 5 one time for you, baby.
Got to do that. Well, thank you again for joining us. You have a phenomenal accomplishment, so we can't wait to hear everything that you're going to share. And those of you who have joined us before know that we are an educational show. So I'm going to start with on this day in history. And Tammy, could you finish the comments where I left off?
I can try.
So on this day in history, on January 3rd, 1969, Shirley Anita Hill Chisholm began her initial term as the first African-American woman in Congress. She was elected to serve in Congress on November 5th, 1968. Congresswoman Chisholm was a representative of New York's 12th Congressional District. She served 7 terms until January 3rd, 1983 in Congress, and she was one of the founding members of the Congressional Black Caucus in 1971. So we always like to start off with our on this day in history fact. And we're going to get to know our guest with a little game of this or that. And this is our this or that principles edition. So Dr. Smith, are you a key jingling principal, kind that we see on the little TikTok videos making fun of us as a principal observer, or are you tipping in and nobody knows you're coming?
I'm gonna be the tipping in type of person. Like you talk to my teachers, they like, this dude is light of foot because he'll come in the classroom, we don't even know he there. Like, so I'm there. I do not carry my keys with me around the building. Like I said, I don't need you to know I walked into your classroom. I don't want to interrupt the instruction in any kind of way. So, but real quick, before we go to the next this or that, you did talk about Congresswoman Chisholm, who is one of my great heroes. And one of her quotes I always use is when she says, if they don't give you a seat at the table, bring your folding chair. And that's something we try to do. So shout out to her.
Definitely. I love that. And are you a click clacker dress shoes brother, or do you wear nice tennis shoes?
It depends on the day. You know, my drip is wide range. It's wide range, you know what I'm saying? So usually it's suit Monday for me. Every Monday I got a suit on. You know, so, and then usually Tuesday and Wednesday, shirt and tie, and then Thursday, Friday, that's when I get up, put out, you know, the Vapor Max, the Air Force Ones, the Air Maxes. You know, I'm gonna show my shoe game and, you know, let the drip happen when it happens.
I love that. The drip is wide range. I know the kids probably enjoy that too. So, are you a sit down to lunch or lunch on the go?
So I'm actually a sit down to lunch, and I'll tell you why. Because usually, I'm in the cafeteria during lunchtime with the students. So I usually sit with a group of kids and eat lunch and kind of chat with them. One of my favorite kids to eat lunch with is an 8th grade student named Mercedes. So she's one of my little babies at the building. So she always comes and sits with me during 8th grade lunch. So I'm usually sitting down and eating lunch, but I'm usually doing it with kids during lunchtime.
That's awesome. I love that. And that I think we need to normalize making sure that we sit down and have a proper meal too for our health is important. Because when I first started off as a principal, I would go the whole day not eating anything, peanuts here and there, chips, but really making sure that we're maintaining our health and ourselves, I think, is important.
And really with that, and I give a lot of credit to my admin assistant, Ms. Crowfoot, because she will make sure you got your lunch today. What do I need to go get you? So she gonna make sure I eat. So shout out to my admin assistant because she definitely takes care of me in that area.
That is tremendous. I have a great admin team too, who will force the fact. And so that is something that is very helpful. So thank you for engaging with us in our this or that. We are going to get into the REALL framework, but before we do you mind sharing with us and our audience how you came to be and just a little bit about your leadership journey and background?
Wow. Yeah. So I have to give my leadership journey. The founder of that was one of my mentors, Miss Samia Guest. When I first came to Kansas City 10 years ago from Ohio, I taught math at Northwest Middle School over in KCK, and Miss Guest was the assistant principal there. And the funny story is, like, I didn't even think Miss Guest liked me. Like, I thought she hated me, couldn't stand me. Like, we just had just didn't see eye to eye on some things. And at the end of that school year, she got named principal of Eisenhower Middle School, and basically came and asked would I go along to be her instructional coach with her over to Eisenhower. So that definitely kind of like shocked me in that process. So I got a chance to go over there and be instructional coach for a year under her leadership. And then one of her assistant principals left, and she was able to kind of help me be ushered into being the assistant principal there. But then sometimes we don't understand the hand of God and how it moves. So a month into my assistant principalship, I was moved to a different school. I went from a school that was probably 80% African-American to a school that was probably 85% Hispanic. And was definitely like, okay, this doesn't make any sense that you're taking a black man out of a black school and moving him over to a school that is primarily Hispanic at Rosedale Middle School. But Rosedale Middle School is where I really cut my teeth as an administrator. I got to learn up underneath, side by side with my principal, Mr. Travis Helm. He was actually a first-year principal, and I was a first-year assistant principal. And like I said, sometimes we don't understand the hand of God, but as he was learning how to be a principal, I was right there by his side, learning those ropes as well. It wasn't my name at the bottom of the letterhead, but I got that experience of working with budgets and being able to understand instruction and building a vision and things like that there. And then after doing that for 5 years, I was wrapping up my doctorate program, and it probably was a little bit selfish. I was just like, I'm gonna be, Dr. Smith, and I just didn't feel right serving under a person who didn't have a doctorate as well. So I figured it was time for me to go ahead and move on and do something else. And my best friend, Danielle Blackstock, she hit me up and was like, hey, Grandview was looking for an elementary principal at Butcher Green. So I'm like, okay, she claims I stole her job, but I didn't. So I applied. We both applied. We got the interview. And I made it to the second round with the superintendent's cabinet. And in that interview, they were basically saying like, hey, we really want you to come join the district, but all of your references talk about how you're a middle school person. Like, middle school is your domain. At that point, I had been in education for 14, 15 years. And out of that 14, 15 years, 12 of them had been at the middle school level. I tell people all the time, either you're a middle school person or you're not. There's no in between. There's no in between when it comes to middle school.
It's me.
And they was like, would you be interested in interviewing for the middle school position? Because our middle school principal just put in for retirement. And I'm like, you ain't got to ask me twice. So a couple of days later, they called me for the interview. Dr. King, who was my original boss. She was the assistant superintendent for curriculum instruction. And she was like, hey, we have 4 slots. There's 4 finalists. Which slot do you want? And I was like, I want the first one. I want everybody to measure up to me. Like it's plain to say or whatever. So I go do the interview. She pretty much told me like, hey, like you just have to win over the staff. Like, the job is yours. We love you. We love everything about you. Your references come along. We definitely want, you to come on board. So I went and I did what I do. I tell people said the gift goes with me. One of my teachers in the comments right there, Miss Watson, was actually on my interview panel when I interviewed for the job. And she told me the story, like, this is her story, not mine. So if I'm lying, she can tell me in the comments. But she, when the school year started, she came to my office and said, Dr. Smith, after you interview, we asked him, do we have to interview anybody else? We knew who we wanted. And I've been blessed ever since to be the principal at Grandview Middle School. It's been an amazing ride every single day. I just talked to them about that today in our PD day and our closeout session of how even 4 years later, I'm still blessed and get goosebumps every day I pull up to the school building and say, hey, you get to run this amazing school community.
Oh. That is awesome. And you're right. Middle school is, you either love it or hate it. I was in the middle school for 19 years and I loved every minute of it. But everybody's not built for it. You got to be built for middle school.
Only the strong survive.
So it's a passion for me. I love the middle level and that group of students and everything that goes along with that. So we are honored that you have been following our show and just happy to have you here to talk about how you're keeping it real. And for those of you that tune in with us on Saturdays, we have we're part of the Fantastic Four, where we're presenting free PD on Saturdays for about 20 minutes with the framework that Tammy and I created when we were in the throes of school improvement. She was at the elementary level, I was at the middle level, and we didn't really have a lot of support from our district. We were in state sanctioned school improvement. And so with the REALL framework that we created, we try to help other principals and leaders use it as a roadmap for school improvement. You don't have to be in state sanctioned school improvement because it's based on the philosophies of Ron Edmonds. Everyone's looking to improve no matter where you are. But our success was in that we improved 2 and 3 report card grade levels in 1 year within our district. So we want to pay it forward. We knew that we needed help during that time, and we had to reach out outside of our district to find the support that we needed. So we just like to be that support for leaders, also for parents, because a lot of parents are looking for solutions for students right now. So just start off by telling us a little bit about that first part of the acronym. The R stands for respect. Tell us how you maintain that culture in your building that's respectful, and that anything that you're doing around SEL practices.
So for me, when it comes to respect, I believe not just with the respect factor, anything that happens in my building, I have to first be the person to model that. Mm-hmm. So the first thing it comes down to is how am I building relationships with my staff? How am I building relationships with parents? How am I modeling building relationships with students and things like that there? So that's kind of where everything starts and ends with me. I was just telling some people the other day, when schools fail, it's because of the leader didn't have a vision. The leader didn't have follow through. That's why schools fail. So, if you see a school that's failing, you can look directly at that leader and, decide, okay, where did they go wrong at in their process of building things up? So that's first and foremost. I believe that, anything that goes on in that building first has to come through me being the leader of the building, not just the building, but the entire school community, whether it be inside or outside the building within our community. And then around the SEL practices. So we use a resource called Second Step. And I brought that with me when I came into Grandview Middle School. We use it in Rosedale. We use it in kind of a smaller tier 3 setting when I was at Rosedale Middle School, specifically with our kids that were in ISS or in recovery and things like that, helping them with behavior replacement skills and things like that. But when I brought it over to GMS, it kind of started out that way. I had seen some success for it in that environment, but then it kind of clicked and said, well, if this works for those group of kids, why can't it work for all kids? So going into my second year, we started to roll it out and do it on a more school-wide systematic approach to it. And we've had to tweak it over the last couple of years. But then at the end of last school year, and I've talked about a lot on Twitter about how we use Second Step and things like that there, they reached out to us and asked us, would we be willing to be a pilot school for them as they roll out a new middle school curriculum. So they are revamping their middle school curriculum to be a little bit more, I think, culturally relevant to the times. So we are in the midst of that action research right now. So we have access to a brand new curriculum that they have rolled out. We've been using that. There's a lot of data we've been collecting from students pre and post, looking at some different competencies that those kids have. There's been some study groups that my teachers have been a part of to kind of help with that as well. So really just trying to really understand what it is that kids need in this day and time. The one thing that Second Step does get a bad rap for, if you've used it or have heard about it, is that they say when you get to the middle school level, it still has a very heavy elementary focus to it. And so that one the thing that they're trying to do now with the middle school is make it a little less team, the morning meeting type of feeling to it or whatever. So every Monday morning, our students do not every Monday in their intervention class, in their Bulldog class, they do a SEL lesson, and it's a lot of role play. It's a lot of reflection. It's a lot of guided questions. They might watch a video. I was in a class the other day. I was taking some people around to my building on a tour. We stopped in during the Bulldog class. They was doing a lesson over peer pressure and bullying. And what is the different forms of bullying, and how do you be a person that stands up against bullying, and also helping kids understand if you just stand on the side and watch bullying take place, you're just as much a problem as the person doing the bullying. So really just giving kids the tools that they need in order to be advocates, not just for themselves, but for their classmates as well. So we definitely, that's something we do every single Monday. We always are, having conversations with kids. I'm a big believer in, we try to use every experience as a learning session for our students, no matter what it is. Just right before break, we had a couple young ladies who joined our school, both in the 8th grade. And it's hard being the new kid in the building, especially being in 8th grade. You haven't been there. Most of those kids have been there since their 6th grade year. We're getting ready to go into, they literally came like 2 or 3 days before winter break. And it's middle school. So the girls that are already there, got an issue with them because, all the boys are looking like, oh, we got some, new girls in the thing, and they are, googly eyed at them or whatever. And we caught wind of it. And so me and my assistant principals went and kind of rode into some classrooms like the Goon Squad and pulled some kids out and just had to have some real heart-to-heart conversations. Because when all 3 of us roll in, people are like, oh, somebody's in trouble. They 3 of them. But we, took the girls back and just really, talked about, that he say, she say type of things, and really just said, hey, they said X to you and they said Y to you. Like, now we're sitting here with both people. Like, let's really talk about and get to the bottom of this. It really had those really, in-depth conversations with young people and just really helping them be able to learn lessons that they don't make mistakes, the same mistakes at 23 that they made at 13. And that's really kind of the goal behind all of it.
Yeah, that's awesome. Love the Goon Squad coming.
Definitely. And we used Second Steps at the middle level too, when I was in the building. And just to reiterate some of what you talked about, respect, being first and second year principals, inheriting, the schools, and also our schools had changed our accountability system in the process of us being new principals. So one year we're looking at an award, and then the next year when you change the accountability system, now we're looking at a failing report card. So when you're in that situation, you definitely have to make sure that your students and teachers respect themselves, because those ratings can make people think that they are devalued or make other people devalue the students and the teachers in the school. So that respect was a really big one for us.
The process can be so demoralizing. It's very good to hear that you do some things that are intended to strengthen the culture in your school, which is important when you're trying to work through anything. It doesn't matter whether it's improvement or not. But I admire that you guys are really placing some emphasis where it belongs, and that is leading with respect as how you address school, no matter who that's with. And I think that's very important. Now we'll move on to the E, of course, stands
Can
for
I hit one more
everything.
thing before? I'm sorry, I don't mean that.
Sure.
Because I want to talk about that demoralizing part, because I think sometimes when we're in the work, we have to learn how do we block out the outside noise, because there's always going to be outside noise. And one of the things that I try to push my staff to is like, we have to tell our own story. So if you follow me on Twitter or any social media, you know, I'm always putting stuff out that our school is doing. You know, on Facebook, I'm in the principal's desk, or, you know, principal group, really just trying to, you know, tell our story, because there's gonna be bad things that happen. It's a middle school. It is what it is. Like, I mean, by no means are we perfect or whatever, but I want all the positive to be so loud that when the negative things happen, it doesn't take away from all the great things we've done in that process. So really, you know, we emphasize that, and then we, you know, emphasize celebrating teachers. So our instructional coaches have something they do every week called the Celebrate and Elevate Award. And basically they just celebrate and elevate different teachers for the stuff that they've seen them doing in classrooms. We have, you know, our Staff of the Month award that we do every month, and we make a big deal out of. We have a whole little Staff of the Month parade, you know, to go to that person's classroom to present them with that award. There's a plaque, there's a gift card. And then we do Final Fridays. That's something we picked up during COVID, because people were just kind of, you know, just down, you know, it was kind of hard coming to work those days. So we started Final Fridays. So the last Friday of every month, we do something to celebrate staff. So usually at the beginning of this year, we had a tailgate at the first home football game. And we, you know, we the middle school, but we at the high school. You would have thought we were the high school staff, because we just went over there and just took over. You know, people know when GMS is in the building, we there. Like, you gonna know we in the building, no matter where we go. So we had, you know, we did a happy hour one time, you know, this past right before winter break, we gave out teachers got these, you know, brand new hoodies and things like that. So really making sure that we're showing teachers they're appreciated, not just that 1 week in May, but throughout the entire school year.
Definitely.
That's awesome.
Awesome, for sure. So moving on, so that we can give you ample time to kind of get through the acronym. E, of course, is for excellence. And if you don't mind sharing, just tell us like the ways that you are setting high expectations so that you are working towards that standard of excellence with your students and staff.
So for us, I think that starts first and foremost with our school priorities. We have 3 priorities. They have been the same from the first day I started as principal to today. And that was the one promise I made to teachers, that we're going to have these same priorities, because they're always going to be relevant. Even if we had 100% you know, growth last school year, this school set of kids is going to be different this school year. So our priorities revolve. First one is relationships. For me, everything builds on relationships. Rita Pearson said it best: kids don't learn from people they don't like, plain and simple. So that's a mantra that we kind of live by, with building good relationships, strong relationships with our students. The second one is intentional planning and delivery of instruction. And then the third one is advancing literacy and numeracy. And then we have certain benchmarks that we are looking to hit within those 3 different priorities. So for example, right now, like our relationships priority, we're trying to keep office referrals under 500 for the school year. And you might say 500 is a lot, but just give you some numbers. The year before I got there, they had 1,400 referrals. Last year, we finished the school year with 705. So that's coming out of COVID. When everybody else said discipline was climbing, we were down 50% based on the year before I got there. So with our intentional planning and delivery of instruction, advancing literacy and numeracy, our goal is to end the school year with 50% of our kids being on grade level and 80% being on grade level or 1 grade level behind. Once again, giving you some numbers, we start the school year with only about 20% of our kids or 25% of our kids being on grade level. So looking to double that in a school year. But not just having that as something on the wall, but something that we live out. So every time I'm meeting with teachers, I'm putting that before them. Every time I'm talking with students, I'm talking to them about, hey, here's what, we just got done taking Winter I-Ready. Is this number truly a representation of who you are? You're an 8th grader. This says you read on the 5th grade level. Is that really what you want people to believe about you? Do you feel like you gave your best effort? Do you want to reassess? So really making sure that not just the staff, but the students know what the importance is. When we looked at our Winter I-Ready data today, one of the things that my teachers brought out was like, okay, this is great. We know this information. Now our students know it. Now, how do we get this to parents? So now I have my ICs working on how do we get reports to parents to make sure parents are understanding the importance of this data and what does it mean? What can you be doing at home to help your kid advance in their literacy abilities? One of the things that we always say in our building, the only way kids get better at reading is by reading. So what can you do at home? Can you sit with your kids and let them read to you for 15 or 20 minutes? So making sure that everybody that's on the team understand the goal of the team. Like I can't have one person over here running the pass play and another person over here running the running play because we ain't gonna advance. Like we said, we're going Hail Mary. I need everybody running down the field for the ball. So making sure everybody's on the same page and understanding our priorities is something that we do. And then everything that we do is intentional with that. So if I have a teacher come to me, hey, I want to go to this conference or I want to do this PD, help me understand how it aligns with one of our priorities. If you can't do that, nope, I'm sorry, you can't go. And then as the leader, really understanding and believing in the vision that I have a team, my building leadership team, which is made up of 6 teachers, my counselors, one of my counselors, my instructional coach, and my assistant principal. And those are the people that I lean on for the various things, but primarily the instructional focus of the building. Hey, we just revamped how we did lesson planning. And that was a whole, different thing, for us that because we've been doing lesson planning for a whole 3 years. But I had 2 amazing brand new teachers, Miss Williams and Miss Coleman, who came in this year, both brand new to the building. Both have been teaching for a number of years, 8th grade ELA. And they was like, we can't find our footing this. Like, how about, can we suggest this? And first I was like, nah, we've been doing fine for these. We don't need to do this or whatever. We don't need to do this, whatever. But then I had an instructional coach who heard teachers' voices saying, no, Dr. I think you need to really look back at this and try to look at that. And after we look back and kind of dissect it, we say, yeah, this will take some of the minutia out for teachers' plate so they can actually get to actual teaching. Because we do want to plan and we do want to make sure teachers understand the direction, but I want teachers to be talking about engagement. I want teachers to be talking about instructional strategies, not, okay, well, what learning target is going to come next? Stuff like that stuff should be automatically set. We have pacing guys do that for us. We shouldn't have to be constantly every week talking about that there. So we made that shift today. And I think a lot of teachers just having that conversation during planning this afternoon appreciated that there. So making sure everything that we're doing is intentionally moving us to a closer place to our goal. And I tell the staff, like, this may not be the answer. Like, I don't know, it may not be the ultimate answer, but I think it puts us in a better place than where we was in December. And that's all I'm trying to do is in January, can we be better than December? In February, can we be better in January? Can March be better than February? And if we can continue to make those small incremental growth, we're going to look back on the year and be like, man, look how far we've come.
Exactly. That's awesome. And as the director of secondary interventions, what you mentioned about parents, that's one of the main things that they are requesting. Well, how do I help my child? So some people assume that parents don't know how to help or want to help, but what they want to know is how do we help them? So you all getting that information to parents will definitely be a game changer. The next part of our acronym, accountability. How are you inspecting what you are expecting?
So once again, I tell you, like, it comes back to me as the principal. What gets monitored is what gets done. Pretty much is that kind of what that says or whatever. So and there was times I had to step back and say, okay, X isn't getting done. Well, what did I do that missed that? Or Y isn't getting done? What did I do as the principal to miss that there? So I'll give you a couple different things that we've done. So we had 3 years ago had implemented the PLC process. I mean, they were doing it, but they weren't really doing it the way it should be done. And we invested a lot of time into making sure teachers understood the PLC process and things like that there. And then the last 2 years, we just kind of assumed, oh, well, we did it last year, so they know how to do it. Not understanding that personnel changed, teachers changed, teachers moved from different grade levels, different content areas and things like that. So as we got into the school year, like, I was just sitting around looking at the PLC template and the documents and the data, and like, something's missing, like something's off or whatever. And I went to this conference, and one of the breakout sessions I went to was it was called PLC Light versus PLC Right. And they talked about this book, Amplifying Your Impact, Coaching the PLC Process. And I went and got the book and literally like read the book in like a weekend. I'm like, oh my God, this is what we missed the boat. Like, I thought we were doing it right 3 years ago. We totally missed the boat. So then I bought 3 more copies and gave it to my ILT, and we read it over a week. And then we came back and we processed that book. And then as we were processing and say, okay, we need to go back and redo how we're doing PLCs. In my head, I just thought of like this rebirth, like, this whole rebirth and things like that. So with that, I thought of this whole baby shower, like a baby shower. So we had like this, they were like, well, maybe rebirth ain't the right way to go. There was a whole bunch of reasons why. So we ended up just going with the relaunch party. But we kept kind of the baby shower theme. So we had like baby shower foods. We were going to have little party games like that because we wanted the teachers to have an experience to take away from the learning as well. Because we went, and there was a 3-part PD session that we did around first building community, because we can't really talk vulnerable about our instructional practice unless we have community. So the first session was all about just building community and talking about the purpose behind this and the why and doing all that. And then the second session, we came back and my assistant principal, Mr. Moore, and the instructional coach, Ms. Schaefer, they looked at like, okay, what does a PLC look like versus what it doesn't look like? So we watched 2 different videos and we did a compare and contrast on what does it look like? What does it look like? What have we been doing versus what we should be doing? And did all that there. And then the third part came back with my other assistant principal, Ms. Williams, and she basically looked at the documentation and said, this is what good documentation looks like in the PLC process. Here are the 4 critical questions we ask ourselves every time we walk into a PLC question. So now and we gave them exemplars from inside our building that teachers have been doing that, have been doing a good job with it. Here's what we're looking for when we're talking about answering these 4 questions. Here's the student data that we're looking to track. Here's when we talk about instructional strategies. Here's how we list out those instructional strategies. Okay, Ms. Phillips, you're going to use a think, pair, share. And Ms. Kennedy, you're going to do an academic team activity. And we're going to come back next week and say, okay, who data was better? Okay, well, you did the academic team and your data is better. So Ms. Phillips, I want you to go back next week and do this academic team and see if you can kind of capture those kids who didn't have that task there or whatever. So we did like that 3-part series. And then we said, okay, now we're going to come back and now we're going to do PLCs different, because now before it was, you know, we had the ELA teachers in one room and we had the math teachers in one room. We had the social studies teacher in another room. I said, no, we're going to have the entire grade level in one room. And we're going to put the math teacher over in this corner. We're going to put the science teacher over in this corner. And we're going to have these conversations, because what happens is if I'm not there, you still have 2 assistant principals that can help you. Or if the instructional coach is not there, then the administrators are still there that can help you. Or if the administrator, the APs and the ICs out, Dr. Smith is still there to help you. So you always got a resource in the room to help you when you're getting stuck. So that was kind of like going back to just really that accountability piece, that what can I do better to give my teachers the tools to do the thing I want them to do. And then after that, now we're going to hold you accountable, because now we have this 4 critical question document every week that you need to identify. And before we walk out of this room, you're going to tell me, what is the student data you're bringing back next week? So math, what is the student data you're bringing back? ELA, what is the student data you're bringing back? Science, what is the student data you're bringing back? Social studies, what is it? And then what are the strategies each one of you are going to use to get that student data and capture it and bring it back, so we can have conversations about what's working and not working. So once again, like that was for me as the leader to say something's not working. I can't just blame teachers. What can I do differently as the leader to make sure teachers can have what they need in order to go where we want them to go? So that's just kind of a small little snippet of kind of that accountability piece and giving teachers the tools before I even hold them accountable. Because I can hold you accountable all day long, but if I didn't give you the tools to do it, you're continue to fall short.
Yes, and it's good that you can recognize, because honestly, you can't hold somebody accountable for something you haven't prepared them for. So moving on to literacy. And we know for the acronym, the L is there and represents literacy, but we also make it very clear that numeracy is a big part of that too, because we want our students to be numerically literate as well. So what kind of initiatives do you have in place that help students to read and do math at high levels, or interventions, or whatever math plans, initiatives you have in either subject or both?
So as I talked about before, you know, we have our 3 priorities, and the last priority, the 3rd priority, is advancing literacy and numeracy. And we want to be very intentional in those things. So I'll talk a little bit about literacy first, and the focus on that. The first thing I did when I came in and took over as principal is I told the teachers, I don't need the ELA department carrying the whole literacy focus for the building, because that's unfair to them. So what we're going to do is I'm going to have the ELA teachers, I want you to focus on literacy from a nonfiction standpoint. That's going to be your place. Like literature, that's your place. And then social studies and science, I'm going to need you to take informational text and focus on those things over there, because all your text is informational text. So we're going to divide and conquer this thing, because everybody's in the process of being a literacy teacher in that from this standpoint. So that was the first thing we did, was we made sure everybody understood their role in our literacy focus and what we were going to do in that process. Then we dug into the data and said, okay, where's our shortcomings at? And one of the things that we saw was that we had a shortcoming in vocabulary. A lot of our kids were struggling with their vocabulary development, things like that. So we became very intentional in teaching kids vocabulary. So the first thing we did was we went to our proficiency scales. And we said, what is that academic vocabulary that kids need to know? So when I walk into a 6th grade math class, or a 7th grade science class, or a keyboarding class, or Project Lead the Way class, or a vocal music class, and somebody tells a kid to analyze means the same around the entire building. Or if they say, I want you to compare and contrast means the same. So we first had to make sure that we all understood what those academic terms meant as a staff before we could then teach them to students. That was the first step. Then we came back and said, okay, now that we have that in place, let's look at, for example, social studies from 6th through 8th. And what are those comments?
Dr. Smith, may I interrupt just to ask a clarifying question so everybody can track? Was your level setting done through staff development, or did you guys create a document that defined the terms and the way they needed to look in classrooms, or did you do model classrooms for?
So it happened. For the academic languages happened with our instructional coaches and our assistant principals. They went through the scales and put out that academic vocabulary and defined it for the teachers. And it's going to make sense why they did that part, because we didn't want to double duty. So they did that part because, I mean, analyze means analyze. There's no interpretation of it. So my instructional coaches and APs did that part. So then what we did in our curriculum meetings or our content meetings was we sat down, for example, with 6th grade social studies, says, all right, what is your key vocabulary that you're teaching from your content in all the core subject areas? And then we went to 7th grade, what is yours? And then we went to 8th grade, and what is yours? And then we took that and put it on a spreadsheet and said, what are the common terms through all the grade levels? So then we put out all those common terms. And then we said, okay, now 6th grade, on your sheet, I want you to define how you're defining it. On 7th grade, how are you defining it? On 8th grade, how are you defining that same term? And then we were able to see, okay, you all are using the term ratio, but you're all defining it differently. A ratio is a ratio. So let's look at all 3 of these definitions and determine what is the best definition for a ratio that we're going to use in 6th grade, in 7th grade, and 8th grade. So that's why we had teachers do that part, because they're the content experts. The analyze, the academic language, anybody can do that part, So we wanted them to focus on the content because they're the content expert, that content. So we built a database for that last year in that process to make sure that teachers are teaching vocabulary. So now every classroom has a vocabulary wall. Every classroom is teaching vocabulary intentionally. Every kid has a vocabulary notebook. So a lot of our teachers use the Freire model. So basically, they're going to give you the vocabulary word, they're going to give you the definition, they're going to give you an example, a non-example, and a non-linguistic representation of the word. So really intentionally teaching kids vocabulary words is something that we have gotten, try to get to focus on as well. And then the reading piece, really making sure that kids are reading. So like I said, we have Bulldog Challenge class, which is our intervention and extension hour, where kids are reading 3 days for 20 minutes. We're getting ready to revamp that a little bit as well, because they got the reading part down, but there's no accountability to it. So we do have a documentation that we're about to put in place for kids to document what they are reading and for teachers to confer with them in that process. I also have a reading interventionist who is the bomb. Miss Reese is a phenomenal reading teacher. Last year, she worked with 70 students throughout the school year. All these students were 3 grade levels behind to start the school year. And out of those 70 students, 40 of them was on grade level by the time the school year ended. So Miss Reese is phenomenal. So that's another resource that we have in place as well. And then during Bulldog class, it's kind of loop into math as well. We use R.E.A.L.L in our district. That's our predictability assessment that we use. So we take that data and we group kids. We picked out our top tier 2 kids. There's 30 of them that we selected, 33, because some people just wanted to be difficult. And we grouped them into groups of 10. So what happens is on Tuesday, the content teacher for math and that team teaches those 10 kids a missing skill during that time. And then on Wednesday, she teaches another 10. And then on Thursday, she teaches another 10. So basically, and we wrote that. So we do math for 2 weeks, and then we do reading for 2 weeks. We do math for 2 weeks, we do reading for 2 weeks. And then the last thing I'll talk about is math club. So last year, I saw there was a deficit. There was a lot of kids that were on the bubble from being on grade level. And we just wanted to give them the core, what I call the core plus more. And it was hard to do that during the school day. So I was like, I'm going to throw together this math club. And it was really tutoring, but kids math club, they sound a little bit more cooler to them. But the way like I said, it's all about how you sell stuff to kids. The thing about finding my school, if Dr. Smith's excited about something, everybody in the building gonna be excited about it. Like before I got there, probably nobody even rooted for Michigan. But now people know if Michigan's playing, like we all wearing Michigan. Like this is what it is. So I rolled out this whole math club and I sold it like, oh my God, you're gonna get selected, you're gonna be a part of this distinguished group of kids, And so when we finally rolled it out, I didn't have no teachers to do it. Because either teacher was either doing intervention or just after. So I was like, you know what? I taught math for 7 years, I run a math club. So then they was even getting like, now we get to stay after school with Dr. Smith. Oh my God. I had kids coming up to me saying, Dr. Smith, why I ain't getting math club? What I gotta do to get in math club? So then we wrote it out again this year. So math club, like I said, is really just, tutoring or whatever. But we do it with Khan Academy. So we find those deficits kids have, we put them on Khan Academy and we just let them go. And so we are getting ready to run those numbers and see how our kids that went through math club did during the first semester in that process. So that's a little bit. I mean, that's probably only maybe, like I said, a surface level view of the things we do to advance literacy and numeracy in the building.
Love all of that. Those are some phenomenal strategies. And you're exactly right that in the middle school, especially when you have a number of students who are not reading on grade level, that cannot be the total responsibility of the English language arts teacher. So love that. And the way you sell things, children definitely is important. I always talk about messaging because people sometimes forget that, children believe a lot of what we tell them. You just got to say it, in the right format. So you are directly on point with all of those. Leadership is the last part of our acronym, and you have spoken a number of times tonight about how everything really goes back to you as the principal. So tell us about your mission, your vision, and your systems that you have in place to maintain that that mission and vision.
So basically, our mission is Grandview Middle School will be an exemplary school where every adult and every student works together for the success and achievement of each student. Like everybody's on the same page for the success of each student. And we just rewrote our mission last school year. And it was my assistant principal, Ms. Williams, that came to me. The first it said for all students. And she came and just like, there's more power in the word each. And you would think all and each mean the same thing. But when you say all students versus each student, that each, there's an individualization to it. That no matter what that student needs, we're going to make sure that student gets what they need. So that's definitely, it starts and ends with that there to make sure that the entire team is on place. And there's some people that I do definitely need to talk to just give a quick shout out to. Hopefully I get them all, because if I don't, I'm gonna hear about it tomorrow morning. But so Mr. Moore, Miss Williams, my two assistant principals, like I tell people they are my assistant principal. We are siblings. Like we are siblings. Like matter of fact, I had a New Year's Eve party and Miss Williams came, Mr. Moore, my other assistant principal, he had COVID, so he couldn't come. But Ms. Williams was interviewing somebody. We won't talk who that person was, but she was interviewing them. And she's like, I'm just gonna tell you as his big sister, like, this is what we protect Dr. Smith. Like, so like to have that family atmosphere with me and my APs. We go to happy hour once a month, is tremendous. Then my two instructional coaches, Miss Watson and Miss Schaefer. They are worth their weight in gold. I can give them a task around instruction and they're going to run with it. They did today. We do a thing called academic teaming in our building, and it basically is around student discourse. It's through Learning Science International is where we got it from. They came out and did PD with us or whatever, but there was teachers who were doing it incorrectly because they thought that, well, anytime I do group work, that's academic teaming. No. So they did this whole PD around academic teaming versus group work. That was phenomenal. It was phenomenal. We do another thing that I gave them. I had this idea that was about this big. It was called New Teacher Institute. And pretty much, we do new teacher training at the beginning of the school year. But throughout the school year, we really never talk to teachers about like, well, how do you input grades at the quarter? How do you do to prepare for parent-teacher conferences? How do you get kids ready for winter I-ready assessments? So my first 3 years, teachers would always come to me like, Dr. Smith, I wish I knew this then, or I wish I knew that then. So I said, well, how about we get proactive and say every month we're going to have a session for our new teachers on staff around how to input grades for first quarter, how to prepare for parent-teacher conferences, how to restart the semester after you get back after winter break. And I told them, I gave them this like little bitty thing, and they have blown it up into this whole ordeal that we now call New Teacher Institute that we do once a month. And our new teachers just love it. It's, like I said, they feel like they are so prepared for things to come. And that once again, so that they are worth their weight in gold. So those are the first 4 people that are part of my building leadership team. I also have Miss Avery, my counselor. Miss Avery's like my Swiss Army knife. Like any task I give Miss Avery, she's gonna make it happen. Like if I need a t-shirt made, she's gonna get her Cricut and get it made. If I need a kid to get some food, she's gonna find a pantry to get this kid some food. This family need their gas paid, she's gonna find a way to get their gas paid. Like she's a counselor, but she is way more than a counselor. And she's probably the person I get the most hardest time in the building. And my staff will tell you, if Dr. Smith ain't picking on you, he don't like you. And then my teachers that are on my building leadership team, I have Miss Phillips, my 6th grade math teacher, Miss Bodenheimer, my art teacher, Miss Richardson, 7th grade science, Miss Jones, 6th grade ELA, and Miss Allen, 8th grade math. Like those are the people that make up my building leadership team. And that is like what I would call my inner circle. Anything going on in the building, I'm gonna run it past them first because I want to hear the voice of the teachers. I want to hear the voice of the counselors, administrators. I want to make sure everybody's voice is brought to the forefront of the table. And then the other 4 people I'll tell you that make the school run. Like they run the school. People think Dr. Smith get all the shine. These women make the Miss Crowfoot, who is my admin assistant, Miss Carter, who was our counselor secretary, Miss Dyer, who's our attendance secretary, and Miss Banks, who's our discipline secretary. Those 4 women are the people that really make Grandview Middle School do what it do. Hands down, no questions asked. So
we can definitely relate to that. And we just love your energy. A lot of your staff members have been commenting in the comments about what a phenomenal leadership team you all have. So just continue to keep up the amazing work. We are excited that you are, able to come on with us and share, because this is the type of thing that helps new and existing principals, because we all learn from one another. So,
can I shout out one last person because I just seen them jump in the comment?
Sure.
Dr. Harris is actually the principal over at Martin City KA. She's my counterpart at the other school. That is my principal pal. Shout out to her. So like she when I say iron sharpens iron, we keep each other on our toes.
That's awesome.
It does. And that's how Tammy and I were. We called each other trust mates, because anytime we need to bounce anything off of one another, or, just get some feedback on something, you do need that as well.
Or even just an ounce of encouragement, because sometimes it wears you down and you just feel a little weary, but you need that person to say, hey, it's good. It's all going to be fine. It's working for our good.
Definitely. Well, you have dropped some amazing gems for everybody to be able to continue to keep it real for the rest of the 2023 school year.
I got lots of notes myself, so
definitely.
I'm gonna go back and listen and take me some notes too. So
we appreciate you and your leadership and what you're doing for children and staff members, because when you talk about taking some things off of teachers' plates, that is definitely a necessity for where we are right now with our workforce. We can't continue to push things down on teachers. We have to make sure it's manageable and realistic. So having a great leader in place who is able to look out for those types of things is definitely essential to make sure that everything is flowing the way it needs to be, and that your students are able to achieve at the levels that they need to.
Yes.
So we love everything that you shared. It was phenomenal.
Yes,
and
absolutely.
Everyone who joined in, we when we started the collaborative back at the start of the pandemic, children were at home, parents had their children at home, so we created story time as a way to be able to model how read alouds could help, or how parents could kind of give them a break from having to do some things. So we've partnered with a number of platforms that offer story time. So we're going to hear tonight from Reading with Carrie Lee. And our partners are people that you all could use in your classrooms. Parents could use this as well at home for your children. They have a number of phenomenal authors, culturally relevant things. And what we're going to hear today is I Am My History. And because this is January, and we will observe the Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. holiday this month, we thought this would be a fitting story. So if you're tuning in, and if you have little ones, you can go grab them to be able to hear this story. The benefits of story time, it really helps your children to learn sounds and words depending on where they are in their language development, especially for early literacy skills. It teaches them to value books and stories, and it also sparks their curiosity and imagination. So this story is by Mr. Brian Keith Harris III.
So this is I Am My History by Brian Keith Harris, illustrated by C.J. Love. I am my history. Walking tall, standing in royalty.
I think I might have to refresh
I am a
it.
direct descendant of kings and queens who ruled with grace, wisdom, and dignity. I am my history, a designer, a thinker, a being of creativity. I built the pyramids of Egypt with my strength and agility. I mastered math and science so brilliantly. I am my history, a child of the diaspora, a survivor of slavery. For 400 years, I fought to be free, escaping the hands of hatred and captivity. I am a powerful source of peace. I am a brave, beautiful light. I am essential to the earth. I am the glimmering hope in the darkness of night. I am my history. The injustices of the world didn't stop me. I overcame obstacles and beat adversity. I stood up like Martin, Rosa, and Jackie. I am a vision of my ancestors. I am a symbol of love. I am a star in the galaxy. I am a gift from above. I am my history, walking tall, standing in royalty. I will continue with this legacy, knowing that nothing can stop me. The end.
I'm on mute. So we hope you all enjoyed our story, and shout out to Carrie Lee for being one of our partners. She does a wonderful job interviewing authors and finding great culturally relevant stories. When you are advancing literacy in your school, having culturally relevant text is something that is definitely something that's essential and should be a part of every classroom library as well as your school library.
Definitely.
So thank you all again for joining us. Again, you have done a fantastic job, Dr. Smith. We appreciate all the gems that you've dropped, and I know that everyone tuning in picked something up, something valuable that they can go back and implement as early as tomorrow. So if anyone has any questions for you, how would they reach you?
So pretty much you can find me on Facebook, VaShawn Smith, Twitter, Dr. V Smith. You can see it right there underneath my name. And basically, people always ask me, like, when you gonna write your book? I'm not really big into writing books. That's just me. But if you want to know everything I'm doing, trust me, you follow me on Twitter, you're gonna get everything for free. You ain't got to buy no book.
All right. Well, we love it, and you might decide to take some of those things you've done on Twitter and put them into a book.
I mean, yeah. If anybody want to ghostwrite for me, let me know.
We know a ghostwriter.
We do. Well, thank you all again. If you would like to be a guest on the collaborative, we are filling up for the remainder of the year. So go to our website, www.createandeducate.solutions, and fill out the form. We would love to have a leader, and it's not just for leaders. We also do teachers, parents, because we are all a part of making sure that our students improve and all a part of that process of changing their trajectory. So just contact us. One of the other things that we have is our group for fit minds and fit bodies. One thing that I learned being a principal, I would hear a lot of the things that were happening in the lives of my staff members. And a lot of it had to do with personal things of them not personally being happy with themselves, with their lives, with their relationships. So our Fit Minds and Fit Body group definitely attends to the mind, body, and health of educators and anyone, actually wellness. We come together and just encourage one another. This is my before and after picture. I think during the shutdown is when I first started my health and wellness journey. So we just encourage one another, and we like for anyone that would like to join us to come along for the accountability and as well as the cheering and encouragement. And then this is our Storytime partners. We have 4. Read with Carrie Lee is who we heard from today. But Storytime with Mr. LaMotta is another great Storytime show. Storytime with Miss McGriff, and also Lit Weekends with Mr. Llewellyn. So any of those are things that you can utilize as classroom resources, or parents can use them at home with their children. A lot of times they're looking for things to do with their children. And finally, if you are in need of professional development or a principal coach or different things that you heard about from today from our framework of instituting that at your school for improvement, Tammy and I are professional development coaches, and we help leaders, we help schools improve just like we did with ours. So again, this is something that we enjoy. This is our passion. Between the two of us, we have about 40 years of experience between us. We've worked at the district level, school level, and we are also serve on multiple boards of different organizations within our community. So you can reach us by going to our website, filling out the form, and we will definitely be back in contact with you. Any last words from anyone?
I just want to say I really appreciate both of you ladies allowing me to come on the show. Like I said, I've followed the show for a while now, and I just appreciate you making my Make-A-Wish come true.
Well, we appreciate you. You are doing a phenomenal job, and just keep up the great work. Because yes, again, these type of things, when we're coming together to learn from one another, to share, those are the things that, you know, we have to do. Sometimes in our positions, in certain districts, they create a culture of competitiveness, but you know, healthy competition is great, but when we're coming together to share and learn from one another, it just makes the lives of all of our children better. So we love it. Keep up the great work, and if you need any help, reach out to us.
Definitely will. Thank you again. I appreciate it.
Yes, thank you for joining us.
Definitely. Well, thank you all for joining the collaborative, and we will see you Saturday in the REALL Academy at 10:30 Eastern Time.
Join Sheikah and Tammy on the collaborative. Let's go!
The collaborative.
1, 2, 1, 2.
The collaborative.
What's that time?
On Facebook Tuesday at 7. The collaborative.
The collaborative. Who we have? Come on.
We have